Hi everybody, it's Dr. David Gustitis here. I want to talk to you about stress and the impact of chronic stress on your ability to fight off infection. And specifically, we're going to talk about your risk of getting a cold in the presence of chronic stress. So there's a great article that was written, a study done by Sheldon Cohen in the 1998 edition of Health Psychology. And he was looking at just this question alone of how much more are you at risk for catching a cold if you're under chronic stress. So just to understand, as we talk about this topic, it's really important that you realize that your body, when you're in stress, when you're in fight or flight mode, you will divert the energy, your blood, your oxygen, you'll divert the energy of your body to your extremities, to your arms, to your legs, so that you can fight or flee. So you can get away from the attack, or you can fight the attack, or otherwise eliminate the attack. And that's your priority. Your priority in that situation is to survive. Now, what happens, you only have so much energy to go around, so that energy has to come from somewhere. And what your body does, it says, okay, well, it's not time right now, not a priority to fight off that infection or to give your immune system a whole bunch of blood or oxygen or resources, because we need it to fight this immediate attacker. You know, if you think about a tiger or a bear is chasing you, going to eat you, well, you need to survive that right now, but a bacterial infection, a viral infection might not kill you for 2 weeks. So what's your priority? Let's survive now and then deal with that later. And in the process of doing that, your immune system gets deprived of some resources that it needs in order to fight off that potential infection. And that's why today, because people are not dealing with being attacked by a tiger or a bear nearly as often as they're dealing with work-related stress or interpersonal stress. So in this study, he looked at, well, what are the incidences? What's the increased risk related to these exposures to stress? So in the person who's living with more than 1 month up to 6 months of stress, he found that there's a double in your risk of catching a cold. And they did a very interesting study where they gathered all these people, paid them some money, said, okay, here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put you guys in different groups. Some of you are gonna get this cold virus swabbed on the inside of your nose, and some of you are not. And then they looked at who caught the cold, who got the infection, who didn't. And they saw, okay, based on the survey of when the person came in, were they actually a person who was dealing with this life-type stress, chronic stress, or not? And they found a correlation. So those who had stress of more than 1 to up to 6 months of stress had a double risk of catching a cold, that's quite a bit. And then think about the group that had for more than 2 years, they had a quadruple risk of getting an infection. So think about the impact of stress over the course of your lifetime. And if you're constantly in that state, you know, you're going to be at more risk of getting infection. So most of the time we hear, like on the news, we hear about people worried about, oh, you know, I'm going to cover my cough. And yeah, that's important to kind of prevent, you know, you're going to directly transmit something to somebody else. I get that. But the thing is, as a chiropractor, we're always looking at how can we fortify your body? How can we strengthen you so that you are more resistant to what is always out there anyway? And in this case, you see a clear correlation between higher stress levels over a chronic time period and increased risk. And the other category was when they looked at what type of stressors, if it was interpersonal stress, like in a relationship, like divorce type scenario, or, you know, with family or friends, those type of stressors led to a 2 to 3-fold increased risk of catching a cold. Now the other group that was even more impacted were those who had high work-related stress. Their risk factor went from a 3.5 times up to 5 times. So it's somewhere in that range depending on how long the stressor had been there, but that's quite a bit. So work-related stress really contributing significantly to that increased stress. Now, there's some specific other factors that were contributing to this risk. One, if they were a smoker. So smokers always at a higher risk for catching a cold, for lowered resistance is really what I want to say, because it's not just about the cold, it's about lowered resistance, period, okay? The other factor, exercising 2 or fewer times a week. Not that the 2 times is bad, but 2 or fewer is not enough. You need exercise 3 or more in order to get the benefit that exercise was providing in this research study, just to improve your measurable resistance. Now, I don't want to say that 3 times a week is enough for anybody to get fit and to be as healthy as you could be. There's probably more benefit, and I know based on the research that I've been reading, a lot more benefit based off of exercising 3 or more times a week, making a nice cardio content, some strength building, some flexibility. There's a lot more to exercise than just doing something. But if you do nothing, your resistance is going to go down. You're going to have more susceptibility. That's the point of that. So 2 times or fewer, not quite cutting it. 3 times or more, you're going to get more resistance to infection. Another category, getting less than 85 milligrams per day of vitamin C. 85 milligrams of vitamin C is equivalent to 1.5 oranges or 1.5 lemons or limes. So a lot of times people say, oh yeah, like I'm getting some vitamin C, but not getting enough. And another source that's really, really good is broccoli. So if you had 1 cup of broccoli, that is actually approximately 80 to 85 milligrams of vitamin C. So make sure you include that in your diet. Another factor was sleep efficiency. So for the people who lay down in their bed for 8 hours, but they're insomniacs, and they're laying there for maybe 2 of those hours wide awake, that's a 0.75 sleep efficiency. So 6 out of 8 is roughly a 0.75 or 75%. If it's below 80, if it's below 0.80, that is a low sleep efficiency in terms of impacting your resistance. If you're laying down in bed, let's say it's 10 hours and 8 of those hours you're sleeping, that's like the threshold of enough sleep in order to get more resistance. Now, for me, and perhaps for you too, if you're laying there for that long and not sleeping, that's a lot of time. I would recommend you try to boost that up. 0.9, 0.95 is starting to be really, really good sleep efficiency, where you lay down, your head hits the pillow, and you're out. But there's certain people too, if it's 100% sleep efficiency, like literally you lay down, head hits the pillow, you're done, and you wake up to the alarm, that means you're probably overtired. You need more sleep than that. So allow more time if that's you. But in this case, in this study, 0.8 was enough to get that increased resistance to cold infections. And lastly, consuming 1 or fewer alcoholic beverages per day was also protective. So keep those thoughts in mind, keep those strategies in play. Make sure you start to adopt some of those lifestyle changes, and you'll really do yourself a favor in terms of increasing your resistance to infection. Thank you. See you next time.